Imagine this. It's winter 1942 and you are trapped inside a dead city. The streets are filled with dead bodies, gnawed by rats. The air tastes of ash and gunpowder. You're not fighting for victory anymore, just to see another sunrise. Welcome to Surviving Humans, my Sunday series where we explore the darkest times throughout history and where I give you guys tips on how to survive them.
Is Stalingrad. Stalingrad.
Welcome in this episode, How to Survive Stalingrad. We'll start things off with tip number 1. Tip number 1, melt into the ruins. Stalingrad isn't a city anymore. It's a carcass. The Luftwaffe bombed it so heavily that entire districts collapsed into skeletons of concrete and iron. Soviet sniper Vasily Zaychev waited motionless for days, killing over 200 men. If it moves, it dies. So, survival tip, don't move. Don't breathe too loudly. Become rubble or join it. Survival tip number 2, eat whatever still wiggles. By January, food had become a rumor. German soldiers boiled belt leather into soups, and they chipped frozen horse meat off carcasses with bayonets or their knives. Some soldiers, they trapped rats inside their helmets. Soviets, they baked bread with sawdust and seed husks to give it a better flavor. Survival tip number 3, be cold-blooded about the cold. The cold is not the enemy, it's the executioner. Temperatures fell to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Men froze to death sitting upright with the rifles still in their hands. Frostbite blackened your fingers and then it spread. So, survival tip, sleep on bricks or even dead bodies, because that's what some people did. Survival tip number 4, fight for the sewers. There is no front line here, just a maze of ruins. The safest way to cross the street is under it. Soviet soldiers slithered through half-frozen sewers, surfacing behind German forces like ghosts. The water stank of rot and corpses, but at least it didn't shoot back. So if you smelled like death, congratulations, you're doing it right. Survival tip number 5, trust no wall. Walls, they offered comfort, for sure, but in Stalingrad, comfort is a lie. Shellfire turned brick to dust and concrete to shrapnel. Snipers carved mouse holes through entire apartment buildings so that they could shoot through 4 buildings at a time. So, when you're leaning on a wall in Stalingrad, it's just waiting its turn to betray you. Nothing here in this city wants you to live. Survival tip number 6, steal to survive or die as a hero. By December, the German 6th Army was surrounded. Hitler promised supplies by the air, but the Luftwaffe was only able to provide 20% of those provisions. The officers, they hoarded bread while their men sometimes had to eat candle wax. So, if you wanted to survive, don't be noble. Steal, bribe, and lie. Morality is a luxury for the living. Survival tip number 7, never gather in groups. This city hates groups. Soviets, they fought in 10-man squads who split into pairs, because gathering meant dying. One German artillery shell could erase an entire platoon. So if you see more than 5 men huddled together, assume they'll be vapor in a few seconds. Walk away slowly and don't gather in groups. Survival tip number 8. Whisper like a ghost. This city is so quiet you could hear ice cracking on corpses. German soldiers, they called it the Rattenkrieg, the War of Rats. Snipers shot on the sound of a boot touching the concrete or a shovel falling over. So move only when the artillery thunders. Let explosions speak for you while you say nothing. Survival tip number 9. Worship routine, not glory. Glory dies first. Routine lives. Some survivors, they said they were only able to survive Stalingrad because they had tasks. If they didn't have any assignments, they would go mad. So start polishing your frozen rifle. Count your useless bullets. Write letters you'll never be able to send. It doesn't matter if it's pointless, it's what's keeping you human. Survival tip number 10, and the biggest one of all, pretend to be dead when the battle is over. When the German 6th Army collapsed, 91,000 men surrendered. Only 5,000 of those men ever returned home. If you were still breathing when it ended, hide your rank, drop your medals, and look very, very broken. Officers were interrogated, soldiers were marched to Siberia, and most of them never even came back. So don't be brave, be invisible, pretend you're dead. Stalingrad killed more people than Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. This was today's episode of Surviving Humans. I hope to catch you guys next Sunday in the next episode of Surviving Humans. Goodbye.